Welcome to Eligible In, where we feature eligible guests to date and you get to play wingman. My name is Megan and I'll be your host today. Just a reminder before we start to give us a follow on social media, like, share, subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, your favorite podcast platform. You know the deal. You'll get updated on new episodes and be able to nominate yourself or a single friend to be featured on our podcast or newsletter. So for today's episode, I'll be talking to Tay. Tay is 32, lives in Edgewater, and self-identifies as a queer bisexual woman. She also lives a very, very full life with some very fun hobbies. So I'm very excited for today's chat. So Tay, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I have a million questions about all the different hobbies you have. We can just kind of go in order. You line dance, you play TTRPGs, you're into video games, you're into books. I just learned before we hopped on that you host multiple podcasts and you love musical theater. So you've clearly got a lot going on. When do you sleep? How many hours of sleep do you get a night?
Oh, certainly not enough.
Okay.
But fortunately, a lot of the stuff that I do is like weekly or biweekly, so there's time in there for sleeping, for relaxing. Again, simply not enough, but we do what we can.
Hey, you know what? It's worth it. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, what motivates you to kind of maintain all of these different hobbies or like explore new ones? Is it like, are you just a curious person? You have, ties to any of these hobbies? Like, tell me why you keep such a full schedule.
Yeah. So, not to get super real in the first question,
Let's do it.
about going on a year ago, a little over a year ago, I was like horrifically depressed and just like not really doing much of anything except for like playing video games in my house because that was the only thing that brought me joy. And I got medicated summer of last year, and as I started to like feel better, I was like, "Oh, I have passion."
Yeah.
I actually have the energy to like care about things other than staying alive. So after that, I just sort of started doing more stuff because I was excited to. And yeah, I mean that's really the crux of it is like I had the energy to pursue passions again. And so I started doing that pretty hard.
Love that. No, and you're just taking in all that life, all that Chicago, all that Illinois has to offer. Yeah, so I want to just like go, down the list with these hobbies. Yeah, we'll start with line dancing. So how did you get into line dancing?
Yeah, I have a friend in LA and she's been line dancing for like several years, I want to say. And when I went and visited her last year, I was like, I want to do this. Like, where can we go? So she took me line dancing and I had a blast. I didn't know any of the dances, of course. I did like slides and stuff when I was a kid. That's what we called them, slides. At like parties and stuff and like dances and whatever. But the line dancing that I am doing now is so much more complex in a lot of ways. And yeah, so I went in LA. I had a blast doing it. I was like, I wonder if we have that here. And so I started looking it up and we did. There's a couple different places that I've been dancing fairly regularly for the last few months. The one I frequent the most is Windy City Cowboy Club up in Wrigleyville. They're very fun. It's like a very cool space. Everybody is very sweet and it's so like welcoming. There's like lots of lessons. There's lots of people who go by themselves and are there to like make friends and it's a very cool vibe. And then the other place I sort of frequent is Charlie's in Boys Town, but their line dancing is more country dancing as a whole. So they also do like a partner dancing and stuff, which is not particularly my bag. I respect it, but I'm mostly there for the line dancing. So I mostly frequent Charlie's if I just want to like see friends that I haven't seen in a little bit that frequent there. But yeah, it's a very fun little hobby. I've always like really liked dancing and I always wanted to do like dance team stuff when I was a kid and just like couldn't. And so this is a sort of different way to do choreographed dancing
Yeah.
and in like a group space. It's very fun.
Do you feel like you get like a good workout out of it, or is it more just like the joyousness of it?
It's both. But there are some dances that are essentially just sprinting for 4 minutes. They're a little bit harder and they're very fun, but like I had to go get a like different inhaler because I was doing so much line dancing and my rescue inhaler was giving me like weird side effects because I was using it so much.
No.
It's definitely a lot of movement. It's really, really fun too, especially if you're doing one of those hard dances, one of the fast dances, and you like really nail it. You're like, fuck yeah, yeah, I did this. But yeah, yeah, it is both a thing of like this is movement and that's good for my body, but also it's just like a fun thing to do.
Would you recommend the kind of line dancing that you do to someone who is not, well versed in dancing, or someone that would say they have 2 left feet? Like, are there kind of beginning line
Yeah.
dances for people?
100%. Especially, like I said, Windy City Cowboy Club is like very beginner friendly. They do lessons twice a week, or they do dancing in general twice a week. And the first like hour and a half are usually, they do at least 2 lessons and a lot of very easy beginner dances. So if you've never been and you want to go, they're great for that because they are super like regularly doing dances that are easy to learn slash pick up. Even if they're not teaching them, the steps are like simple enough.
Yeah, and then so afterward, like, there's the lesson, you learn some line dancing. Do you like to hang around the bar and, like, just do more, like, dances afterward, or is it like you're there for the lesson, then you go home? Like, do you have, like, a drink afterward? Like, what's the vibe after
Yeah.
you learn the lesson?
So dancing actually goes for usually about 3 hours and they're
Holy
just
moly.
dancing the entire time. Occasionally they'll throw in like a couple swing dances specifically for Windy City, but like for the most part, you're just dancing for 3 straight hours. And
Wow.
so that's why it's like it's fun to learn more dances because the more often you go, the more dances you learn, the longer you're moving. I remember when I first started going, I only knew like 2 or 3 dances well that I felt comfortable doing, and now I know a bunch, and there are times where I'm like, "Oh god, I'm so tired, but I love this song," and so I get back on the floor. But yeah, generally speaking, you're just there straight up dancing for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on where you go.
Would you say that you make a very good wedding plus one then? Do you bust out the
100%.
line dances at a wedding then?
Well, it's hard to bust out a random line dance at a wedding, and I also haven't been to a wedding since I started line dancing, so who's to say, if they play one of the songs and I know it, I might do that, but generally speaking, I feel like I'm a very good plus one because I can hold my liquor and I love dancing, so I will be on the floor. So,
There you
there's that.
go. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. That's like an intro for the podcast there. A little clip out there. So, I associate line dancing with Texas because I live in Texas.
Mhm.
So, are you originally from Chicago? Is like
Yeah.
I know you got into it in LA, but it's also like a Chicago. It's big in Chicago, the line dancing.
Yeah, yeah. So I am. I was born here. We moved a bunch until I was like 7 and then moved to the suburbs, came to college in Chicago and then just never left. So I've been here more of my life than I haven't been. And it's very funny, specifically line dancing, because there are, depending on where you go, some places where it gets a little scary. But most of the places that I have been and like feel safe in are very inclusive. They're like Charlie's is obviously super gay because it's in Boys Town. Like, so if you're not going to like a very either queer led or woman led place, it can get a little conservative, a little scary. So be careful, if you're out in the world, not in Chicago going. But generally speaking, super inclusive space. And it's kind of fun to like cosplay as a southerner, like, because I especially now, like, so much of my closet is like I bought this specifically for line dancing so that I can like do a little twirl and my skirt like flies, or I have dance sneakers now that are like good for turning specifically because there's lots of turns and like spins in line dancing. And so yeah, it's very fun to like have a thing that is, you can almost go embody a different kind of persona as you're doing it.
Wow, that's a fantastic segue, actually, because the next hobby I was going to ask you about was TTRPGs, or tabletop role playing
Yeah.
games for folks who are unfamiliar. So I'm curious just to know what game you're playing now. What kind of character are you playing? What does your character line dance?
That would be fun. I wish there was a way for me to put that into a campaign, but no. I'm gonna talk about 2 characters because there's one that I'm just, like, obsessed with, but that game is a little bit of on a hiatus right now, and then one I'm sort of actively playing in. Um Well, my hiatus character, her name is Illyri. She is a paladin, and then if all goes well, will multi-class into a paladin sorcerer, and that has to do with like things happening in her backstory, which I won't super divulge right now, but because I could truly talk for an hour. But yeah, she is very like introspective and she's been through a lot. She's got religious trauma, which, I super can't relate to at all. And she is, I don't know, I'm just like very interested in the way that she continues to handle the things that she cannot control about her magic, which is very fun. And then the other character that I'm playing right now pretty regularly, her name is Nida. This game is not D&D. It is called Red Markets, which is like a post-apocalyptic zombie sort of build game. And this character is she's a single mom. She's deeply resentful of the fact that she is a mom and she is like a PhD dropout. And all of these things sort of happened right before the zombie apocalypse. And now she is something called a taker, which is like a person who has to like go out and find things in order to sustain the compound that they're living in. And this is the first time I've played a character who is like particularly morally gray in a way that has been
Oh.
really, really fun. This game is for a show that we're doing. And so we've been recording like weekly, bi-weekly. And it's not out yet, but I think it'll be out in like a month or so. So we'll see when this gets posted if it's out yet.
Yeah. So is this one of the podcasts that you're doing?
This is, I guess technically, I think it's going to be airing on Twitch,
Cool.
but I don't know if they're going to be like releasing it on other platforms as well. But yeah, it's a very fun like dark and kind of gritty world to be playing in. And there's a lot of just like general moral quandaries. And I think it's really fun to play a character who is grappling with a lot and is like doing the best they can, but isn't always making, you know, the right decision. So yeah, those are my 2 right now.
That's so interesting. It's fun to hear how people follow their characters
Oh,
in TTRPG games and to really be a witness to their character through playing the character and through the role play and the improv. So that's
yeah.
really interesting. Do you like what's your favorite kind of character to play? Do you naturally like to watch these characters kind of go on these, big arcs and have these big journeys that are even like surprising to you?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I'm always going to be playing someone who has like a unique perspective or has been through something that informs the way that they act, because I think that's like the most interesting way to be, telling stories with people. And so I don't necessarily have like an archetype of character that I enjoy playing, but in terms of just like who they are as people, I'm really, really interested in them receiving challenges and based on the way that they have gone through their life making decisions on that.
Is there like a type of research that you do for these characters or like contemplation that you do? Like, how do you prepare yourself to like make decisions as these
Yeah.
characters?
That's such a fun question. It's not normally research. I think the best GMs that I've worked with will ask you questions about the character as you're building them. So you'll have just sort of like a shell of a human of like class, race, general background, subclass, things like that. And then you go through and your GM will ask questions about like specifically where they came from or what was the reason they decided to become like this class of character. When I was building Nida specifically, knowing that it's not like a traditional D&D character, I really went in with the idea that knowing that this is a post-apocalyptic world and the idea that like there's always a reason that these people there has to be a reason that these people are takers, that these people are endangering their life to like go do something. So like what was the reason for her? What is the thought process and why is she risking her life in this way to, you know, go on these fairly dangerous missions where she is constantly exposed to potentially becoming a zombie? And for her, it was the both desire for something more, for something greater, to like get back on the path that she presumes she was on before she had her kid, before the like world exploded, and also like knowing that she holds so much resentment for the fact that she is a mom, doing everything she can to make sure that her kid has the best life that she can while she is in this horrible, terrible place. So yeah, just like trying to figure out based on the setting and based on the type of game that we're playing, what sort of person I want to explore. And everybody builds characters like super differently, but I always just try to like ask questions of the character either to myself or from my GM and figure out who they are that way.
That's so interesting. It's like I'm a writer myself, so it's like that sort of character creation and that sort of like deep dive into a
Yeah.
character, something I typically associate with like fiction writers and artists of that kind of medium. But as I've learned about TTRPGs, there's just like that same amount of like creative, I don't know, like just like cool creativity and
Yeah. I
stuff.
mean, it is a form of writing realistically. Like
Yeah.
you are crafting a story with people and it's usually a fiction story. And so I've had to like sort of in my head, like I adjust to the idea of being both a performer and also a writer in that sense because it feels gratuitous to like call myself those things. But for all intents and purposes, that is what is happening. Like I'm not physically writing it down, right? But it's like I'm reacting to things that are happening in a way that I personally would not potentially react to them. And that's,
Yeah, you're exercising the same like empathy and creativity as you would if you're writing these characters down into like a fiction story. So
yeah.
that's also a good segue into my next question, which is going to be about the last book that you read. So you mentioned that you read books. Yeah, tell me about the last book you read.
The last book I read was Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy.
Oh,
It's a very quick, sharp novel. I think it's her first novel. And I don't want to spoil literally anything about it because I think everyone should read it. But it is such an interesting sort of into the type of both mindset of someone dating someone much older than them and the I don't know, the challenge, I guess, of like what becomes of a person who gets put in that situation. And she's like a very sharp, very quick writer. And even in her, what was it, her memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, it has a similar sort of like voice, I would say. Like it's very Jeanette McCurdy all the way through, but as a fiction piece, it's also just like really, really well done. So yeah, that's what I recently read.
I was going to ask if you read I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Yeah.
She's so, yeah, she has such a great grasp on different emotions and
Hmm.
and how to work through them and how to sit in them. Like she sits in the anger that she has in a really refreshing way. And a way that I think a lot of people could really learn, specifically women could really learn from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she's really interesting. Have you read
No.
Okay. It's a memoir by a woman who's diagnosed as a sociopath. It is so interesting. And it has a similar, like, I feel like it has similar themes to I'm Glad My Mom Died in that you think about feelings and you think about emotions and you think about those things differently and with like a wider, expansive empathy. So
Is
it's,
it Patrick Gain?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that I'm not sure how to pronounce
For
her
that
last name,
last
but
name, yeah.
yeah. But
I've added
it's
it to my list, thank you.
amazing. Do you use, Goodreads, Storygraph? Like, how do you
I do use Storygraph, but I also use Libby, and I'm almost exclusively like audiobooks these days just because it's easier for me to listen to an audiobook while I'm doing other stuff versus like sitting down and physically holding a book. So yeah, yeah. I've
does
just added
Jeanette
it to my
McCurdy
DVR.
does Jeanette McCurdy narrate,
Yeah,
Half His Age?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, she's a great narrator too.
Mhm.
Do you typically listen to fiction or nonfiction?
I generally speaking gravitate to fiction and almost for a long time I was almost exclusively doing YA fiction like even as I became an adult and only occasionally will like dip a toe into adult fiction. I don't know why. I just like find it less interesting than teenagers. But like there's just like what's the word, like a joyful sort of naivete in reading like teens, and I've also been rereading a lot of books that I read as a kid that I loved, that I was obsessed with, and I'm like, was this as good as I remember it, or was I just a kid? And a lot of the stuff has held up, at least in my opinion. So
What are some of the books that have held up?
okay, this is controversial, but I love the Divergent series. Not the third book. The third book is bad, but the first two I really enjoyed. That's like one of my favorite, I would say, trilogies. I reread all of the Hunger Games books last year. I reread Percy Jackson. Well, I actually hadn't read all of Percy Jackson. I only read the first book when I was a kid, but I read the entire series last year, 2 years ago. And that was very fun. I just spent a year literally going through every Percy Jackson novel. And those are great still, I would say. I think you should read them as an adult. They're really fun.
Greek gods,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good like 101 of Greek gods and like that lore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah, I love the
cool.
Greek gods. Right now, I'm reading Just Listen by Sarah Dessen, which is another book that I was like obsessed with as a kid and has been on my shelf forever. And I'm like, should I be keeping this book? So I'm going to reread it and see. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of stuff that happened in it that I completely forgot about. And I'm like waiting for the other shoe to drop in it. But it's been really fun to reread that as well.
Is Sarah Dessen romance or thriller or
Yeah, she's
okay.
YA romance almost exclusively. I don't know if she's ever written an adult book. Maybe 1 or 2. But the thing for Sarah Dessen specifically, I can't remember the last time she came out with a book, honestly, but like a lot of her books are interconnected sort of in their universe. So there's like one beach town that she kind of goes back to a lot. And occasionally her other characters will make cameos in like various parts of the book. So that's the main reason I wanted to start rereading her stuff, is because I hadn't read it in a long time. And also I was like, I love this like light interconnection of worlds. Like it's not hard line like MCU, everything is connected, but it is very fun to see like little things that are just like nods to, like, if you know, you know. That's fun.
Yeah, have you read Taylor Jenkins Reid?
No.
I mean, her books are mainly adult fiction, but it's the similar kind of like light, all in the same universe. There are a lot
Okay.
about old Hollywood, like Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is,
Okay.
yeah, it's about an actress who like hires a ghostwriter to write her story, and it's kind of
Mm,
unclear why the ghostwriter's there. And then it's about her previous, Seven Husbands. And then, yeah, Malibu Rising is also about like Malibu and Hollywood and that kind of area. What else does she has, I think she just came out with one called Atmosphere, which is, I think, like loosely based off of Sally Ride and her like girlfriend, I think.
okay.
I know that it's a sapphic romance, I believe.
And we love that. We love
And we
that.
love that. Yes, yeah. It came out in June. So yes. So yeah. There's
Okay,
so many
cool.
books, so little
Yeah, she's got
time.
a ton. Oh, she did Daisy
Mhm.
Jones and the Six. I didn't even
Yes.
realize.
Yes, that's the other one
Okay,
I
sick.
forgot about.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, plenty of books, plenty of audiobooks,
Mhm.
and how long are you spending with audiobooks versus podcasts, which is my next thing I'm gonna talk to you about. When do you listen to podcasts? Are you listening to more podcasts than you're recording podcasts? Are you recording more podcasts than you're listening to? Like, tell me all about the podcasts that you love and
Yes.
that you record.
Okay, so it's actually very funny. I don't have a ton of podcasts that I listen to right now. A lot of the podcasts that I listen to are things that I've been listening to just for years, and it takes a lot for me to like pick up something new. But generally speaking, I will alternate between podcasts and audiobooks. So if I'm reading an audiobook, I'm letting my podcast pile up, and then when I finish the audiobook, I'll go back to and catch up on my podcast. It really helps that I listen to everything sped up. I watch everything sped up. Everything is minimum 1.5 speed or faster.
Wow.
Um, yeah, my friends are like, what's wrong with you? And I don't know. I don't know the answer. For me, I've just found it like helps me to pay attention more if I have to listen like a little bit harder to hear
Yeah.
what's going on. So yeah, but that's generally I will do like, if I'm listening to an audiobook, I'm focused on that. I listen to audiobooks and podcasts usually during work
Oh.
or like on commutes if I'm like traveling, on the bus, on the train. But yeah, I have loved, but podcasts are what got me into audiobooks, because I remember being a kid and being like, audiobooks are stupid. Like I'd rather read a real book. And I had a manager, one of my managers at my first job in high school, who kept trying to get me into audiobooks. And I was like, I could read faster than this. And this person is talking. But yeah, now listening to stuff sped up really helps me like get through lots of content. So that's my podcast and reading audiobooks, listening journey. As for the podcast I'm recording, I have two. One of them is a little bit less frequent than the other, but I have a previously Boy Meets World, now Girl Meets World recap podcast that I do with one of my best friends who has never seen the show, and I have seen all the episodes, and so that's the like hook for us. And it's been really fun. We just finished Boy Meets World like late last year, and now we're doing Girl Meets World, which is very interesting and very silly because it's a Disney Channel show versus Boy Meets World was an ABC show. So it's sort of a different vibe all the way through, but it's been very fun to talk about that. And then I have a podcast that I do by myself called TTRPG, which is mostly just an excuse for me to interview people that I like about the stuff that they're making. It's truly like a scam for me to be like, sit down with me for an hour and talk to me about this cool thing that I like that you're doing. And it's working so far, which is great for me. So that's really fun. I have talked to a lot of like very interesting creators and friends about their like projects and the things that they're making. And I hope to continue doing that forever because it's really fun.
Yeah. What kind of creators are you talking to? Are you talking to like GMs? Are you talking to the people who paint the minis? Like who are you talking to on the
Yeah.
podcast?
So it's mostly like players and GMs, I would say. The like And it's almost exclusively people that I have interacted with in some way in the space. So a lot of my interviews are with the cast of the 20-sided Tavern, which was a D&D play that was here back in August and September of last year that I got horrifically obsessed with. And so I've had a lot of the cast from that show on my podcast to just talk to them about D&D in general, their performing history, their general history as just like people, as actors, so on and so forth. And that's been really fun. And then I've also had friends of like shows that I'm very into, and I'll talk to them about like the character choices that they're making or how they like how they built the type of story if they're the GM, how they made decisions on like what sort of connections people had or what character voice they were using for this or that or stuff like that. So truly just like getting into the nitty-gritty of the like things that my friends and people I admire are making and being like, so why'd you do that? Tell me everything. Tell me why you made that specific decision. And it's been really fun. It's been hate editing a podcast in general, which sucks because I have so many. But like I do really like the end product of what I tend to come out with. And so yeah.
It's interesting how both of the podcasts, like I could bring them back to things that we had talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Like obviously with the TTRPG, we can like keep talking about, the cool things about that type of storytelling and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. And then also with the Boy Meets World podcast, like it kind of connects to, Jeanette McCurdy and the book that you just read. Are you like, is the Disney Channel / Nickelodeon child star obviously like I'm the same age as you, so I
Mhm.
know that these are people that we kind of grew up with and that
Yeah.
these are shows that we grow up with and definitely like taught us a lot about being like a young adult. So I'm curious if that kind of era of TV or those, kind of star, like, do you keep up with Christy Carlson Romano's podcast? You keep up with that gossip? Like, is that something that you just specifically like, or do you just really like Boy Meets World?
Uh, I would say it's like a little bit of a mix of both.
Okay.
I really love Boy Meets World. It's always been like my favorite show. Even growing up, I watched it a ton on reruns on ABC Family, on Disney Channel. Like I always just really loved it. I can't point to like why or what the thing was about it that really clicked with me because realistically, like it's very different from my experience of growing
Yeah.
up. But I just thought it was like such a fun and interesting exploration of truly the entire like process of growing up. Yeah, I don't know. Boy Meets World specifically was just like one of those shows that I really, really connected with. But in general, I don't know. I have like an immense amount of love for the content that I was obsessed with growing up. I was like, I still to this day deeply obsessed with High School Musical.
Yeah.
Love that trilogy. I think it's genuinely one of the best things that Disney has ever made. And even like going later down the line of the sort of like trilogies that they have come up with, Camp Rock, Lemonade Mouth, not a trilogy, should have been, but there's so many Descendants, Zombies, even like Zombies is like way after my time, but I love that like franchise. I think it's so fun and so well made. And I just think that there's something about like movie musicals, but also just like the kind of content that Disney was making in the early 2000s and like 2010s that was just fun and joyful and like for tweens, like specifically tweens, that weird in between age that, they just don't make content like that anymore. Not to be like old man screams at cloud, but like they're just not making shows, movies, TV like that anymore. And I just find it like so fun and so indicative of its time and really, really fun to watch still to this day.
No, that is really true though. That I think that's like a known kind of critique of movies and TV is that nothing's like geared toward kids.
Yeah.
That is like to be really successful
Yeah.
and a lot of those things they can be like long-term successes because, 20 years later people are still watching it. Like that's what
Yeah.
the Disney Vault, like, the fact that they would do these re-releases 20 years later is like because people get nostalgic about those things. So why not
Yeah.
make TVs, movies that like appeal to that age group. In terms of like movies, TV, are you big on either or, more the books and the podcasts and the
Yeah.
TTRPGs?
Truly it's mostly TTRPGs. I'm very bad at watching television and watching movies. I tend to like at the end of the year, I will have my friends. This is like a whole thing. So if somebody recommends me a television show or a movie and they're like, "Oh my god, you would love this." My brain is immediately like, "I will never watch it." Because
Yeah.
I I have there's just like a little man in my brain who's like, "No, not for you." And so at the end of the year usually I will make a list. I will solicit recommendations from my friends of like things that I've missed or things that I probably would like that I didn't watch for whatever reason throughout the year. And when I take like the 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's, I will watch all of the stuff that I missed over the year. So there's a lot of stuff that I watched like literally last December that I had missed when it was coming out. And I was just like, man, this is so good. I wish I had seen it earlier, but also I don't because literally need to just get to it in my own time. So all that to say, I don't watch a lot of movies or TV very often. I do watch a lot of content, but most of the content that I'm watching is like D&D, TTRPG stuff, like internet content creator type people. And I don't know. I think it's just like it feels like movies especially, but TV shows too feel like more of a commitment than always am like willing to take, which is hilarious because most of the D&D content I watch is over 4 hours, but that's neither here nor there. I can't explain why in my brain it makes sense.
So you mean like Critical Role and stuff like that?
Yes, not Critical Role specifically, but
Okay.
yes, things like
Yeah.
that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't make sense and I'm sorry in advance, but also I'm not. It's just how my brain is.
I understand though. It is like there's something about something that you can like pause, like a game you can like pause a little bit, whereas a movie there's like less of a I don't know incentive. You can't just pause
Yeah, it feels
as soon
weird to
as you
just
can.
like, yeah, I have to commit to watching this thing, right? Because I have to see how, whereas like if it's a TTRPG game that I'm not enjoying or like a weird little like watching some people play a video game, if I don't like it, I don't feel like I'm losing anything by turning it off.
Yeah,
So
there's something there,
there's
you know what I
something
mean?
there.
I'm sure there's a psychologist that understands
Yeah.
why we'd feel that, but I can relate to that. Are you a dropout person?
Yes.
Okay, what are your
Heavily.
favorite dropout shows?
Ooh, yeah. I love like I love Game Changer. I love Make Some Noise. I'm a big, obviously, Dimension 20 person. I think they're in this weird space where they're like way more notable. And I feel like some of the stuff that they're making is too big. And I want them to like pare back down. Like I was just talking to my friend about this, but I loved Game Changer like season 2, 4, 5 era. I think it was like it was both like big and interesting, but also not so crazy.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Totally. No, because it just keeps getting larger and larger and
Yeah.
larger and larger. And there is, I can understand the need to just like have that small bout, like burst of
Yeah.
creativity rather than like huge budget,
Which is not to
wild.
say
Yeah.
the stuff that they're making with that bigger budget is bad by any means, but I'm just like thinking of the way that I felt watching various, and all of the things that I go back to watching are stuff from like earlier seasons when things were smaller and simpler and they weren't like doing as much stuff. But yes, I love Dropout heavily. I'm watching almost everything that's on it for the most part.
Ooh, are you watching Gastronauts?
Yeah, I did watch
Okay.
Astronauts. I don't think I watched all of the second season because they had some guests on there that I just like didn't care about.
Okay.
But most of the time I will watch, like, if it's like for those kinds of shows, if it's guests that I know, then I will watch it. Same with like Dirty Laundry, I couldn't get into. I
That's fair.
like the idea of it a lot, but for some reason it just does not stick with me unless it's like a group of people that like the actors or comedians I super care about, then I will watch it. But
Yeah. There's so much on that
yeah,
streaming service network, whatever you call it, that you can't watch all you can't
right.
physically watch all of it. There's just
Yeah.
so much going on at all times. Plus you got podcasts and plus you got to record podcasts. You got to go line dancing and you got to do
There's so
all
much
things
happening.
amazing thing. Yeah. One thing that we have not gotten to yet, that I'm very curious about. So you collect playbills, theater memorabilia,
Mhm.
theater tickets. I'm curious to hear about that. I mean, talk about a whole other medium.
Sure.
Are these like shows that you've seen in Chicago? Do you go to New York? Like, how do you collect, or is it memorabilia from shows that you've seen? Is it shows that
Yeah.
you haven't seen, but you just have a collection? Tell me all about it.
So the things that I collect, specifically theater related, are the playbills. I collect magnets and I collect like ticket stubs. And for ticket stubs, I collect like any and all ticket stubs I can get my hands on for like random shows I go see or concerts. Like if I can get a ticket stub, I will do that. Actually, all of them are behind me. So those four binders and
Oh,
then this
wow.
little blue, that is my ticket stub book that's very small behind me. But these four binders are all of my playbills. And for the most part, I think there's probably less than 5 playbills in there for shows that I personally have not seen. Everything
Oh,
else is
wow.
shows that I've seen. Every show I go to, even if I see it more than once, which I have a big tendency to do, I will keep the playbill. I'll stick it in a binder. And those, I started doing that in like, oh God, 2016, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Maybe actually like sooner than that, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. Uh, because I really, really love theater. And so, yeah, I don't know why I started collecting those things. I just like having just like a little, like, I just like having stuff. I just like having little things that I'm like, "Look, I did that." But for the most part, all of the shows are things that I've seen. I have, like, the playbill for the 20th anniversary of Wicked, and I didn't see the show that year, but I got a playbill, like, I purchased one because I was like, "This is my favorite musical. Wicked is my favorite musical," and I needed to have a copy of that. But, yeah, for the most part, it's all shows I've seen, and every time I go see a show, I get a magnet, and I keep my playbill, and I keep my ticket stub if they give me one because I like looking back on it and being like, "Oh, this is what I saw this year." And also, you see enough shows, like, actors pop up in the same things, and so then you can say, like the first Black Alphaba on Broadway, she just finished her run back in March. Lancia Catabe, I think is her last name. I saw her in Hamilton in 2023, and I was looking at her history when she got announced and realized I had also seen her in Rent in like 2022 or 21. And
Wow.
I was able to like look at my playbill and be like, oh my God, yeah, I saw her in this show and I didn't even realize it. So yeah, it's stuff like that where I'm just like, I like having a sort of timeline of all of the things that I've seen and when I've seen them.
So that's a good opportunity for us to talk about dating and to talk
Mm,
about where you are now, where you'd like to see yourself in the future. Because I do think a lot of introspection is required to have
yeah.
a successful relationship. I also think openness is really important, especially with the way that the dating landscape has changed. I think
Mhm.
Eligible In and doing this podcast and doing more kind of going back to more in person meetups,
Yeah.
and meeting each other in person is something you have to be really open to, because a lot of people have just closed themselves off to the apps.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just curious, like, where you are in your dating journey, how you like to approach dating, what brought you to kind of take on this opportunity for Eligible In, and just kind of how you see yourself bringing a partner into your already very full life.
Yeah. I think that last thing specifically is like, for a long time, I think, looked at dating as a way to fulfill myself. I was like, if I had a partner, things would be easier. And I think there's potentially that could be true. There are probably a lot of things that having a partner would make easier. However, my life and my perspective, like you said, right now is so full, and I'm so happy with what is happening for me in my life right now, that any person that I am dating would have to be able to like understand that level of independence that I have, and also be willing to sort of, I don't know, I guess like you cannot come into my life and make it worse. So anybody I'm dating would have to specifically be adding something to my life that I don't have, that isn't getting fulfilled through other relationships, friendships, and like the things that I'm passionate about. And so I think that's part of the reason why I'm like more focused on in-person dating and stuff like this, because I'm like, it's both important to put yourself out there, but also like I am looking for very intentional, very empathetic, very communicative people. And I don't have the time or energy or desire to entertain anything less than that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like, I've worked really hard to create a life that I love. And so I just want to like make sure that any person that I'm dating or interested in both shares my values and understands that my life and my happiness is going to continue to remain the number one priority for me, because at the end of the day, I am the only person who has to be with me all the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic answer. And I think that mindset and that place in life is like the best place to start a
Yeah.
relationship from. Because again, no matter what happens, you have standards, like specific standards that are very confident in.
Yeah.
And that's only going to set you up for a relationship that meets those standards and adds something to your life rather than takes away something from your life. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Is there like, do you like to plan dates? Do you like someone to plan a date for you? Do you like to go back and forth? Like,
Yeah.
what's your ideal?
I am an eldest daughter and a control freak by nature. And part of that is because so much of me and my brain is like, well, if I don't do it, no one's going to do it. Or if I don't do it, it's not going to get done right. And so, specifically in my dating life, I am looking to let go of a little bit of that control, because I don't want to have to be the person who is making all of the decisions and making all of the like plans. I want to be with somebody who allows me to turn my brain off sometimes, because my brain has literally never been off and it's real exhausting. So ideally, that is what I would like. I'm willing to co-create and to like put in effort, in the sense that like we are going back and forth adding ideas, but the thing that I am looking for is somebody who, like I said, is intentional, is very obviously and actively making an effort.
Mhm.
And if that is not happening, like I just am simply not interested, because I've dealt with too many people who are like, we have a great in-person connection and we, get along really well and we have a good time together. And then in between the time that we are seeing each other, it's radio silence, or, half-assed like energy, or I am making all of the effort to plan when we are seeing each other. And I just don't have that in me anymore. Like I can't be the only person in this relationship, Like I could just be by myself in that case.
Yeah, it just goes back to the standards that you set for yourself, and that's fantastic. I mean, it's like not that hard to ask that someone want to be in the relationship that they're
Yeah.
in.
It really, like, so often I'm like, but am I being ridiculous? And I'm like, no, it's not. I briefly dated someone last fall who, it was like the first time I had dated a man in my adult life who was very actively like making an effort. He was in town for a week, and he texted me to be like, hey, are we still meeting up on this? Like, did you still want to do XYZ? And I was like, oh, he's known me for a month and has been so intentional, knowing that he's only going to be in town for a limited amount of time. And it's like, this isn't ridiculous, actually. It's actually really normal, the things that I'm asking for. And now I'm like, despite the fact that that didn't work out, I'm still kind of like, but that's not an unreasonable ask. And I just have to remember that. It's not an unreasonable thing to want somebody to communicate with you and be intentional about how they're spending your time, you know? So,
Yeah. I mean, the phrase, like, if he wanted to, he would. If she wanted to, she would. Like,
yeah,
it's true. And
I
it's, you know?
I believe that so firmly, and a lot of people have like problems with it in the sense that it's like, oh well, everybody's dealing with their own things and blah blah blah, and sometimes people want to and they don't, and I'm like, yeah, but you will make time and energy for the things that you want to. You just will. Like, so I can't accept anything less than that. I'm so sorry. If you wanted to, you would.
Yeah, no need to apologize. I think that's, very reasonable. Do you, for first dates, do you like, sitting across the table from someone and just chatting with them over like coffee or a drink? Do you want to go line dancing? Do you want, do you want to be outside on a walk? Like, do you want
Oh
to
my
be,
gosh. I would
meet?
love if someone went and line danced with me on a first date. I love an activity date, I will say. I've gone on several first dates where I'm like, let's go mini golfing, because I think specifically mini golf is a very fun first date. But even just like any sort of activity that kind of gets you, like, you don't have to super hard focus on the person. There's something that you guys can do. And then if it sucks, like once you finish the activity, you can just be like, okay, great. It was great to meet you. But if you're having fun, you can go grab a drink after the activity. You can go grab dinner after the activity. And so I really like an activity date for those reasons. But I've done it all. I've done the drinks. I've done the coffee. I've never done a dinner date. I think that's some people are like, no, make an effort. Like dinner date, first date is really important. But I don't want to be trapped in a dinner if it sucks. Like I just want to be able to leave if I need to. So yeah, I think an activity date first, and then I would do drinks or coffee. One time on a first date, I did go for a walk through, what is it, Graceland Cemetery, which is up in Andersonville in Chicago, and we saw a deer. And I was like, this is crazy. We're in the middle of the city. Why is there a deer up here? So yeah, I don't mind like a walk date, like a little stroll date as well. I've done that a couple of times, but I do really like an activity.
Hey, what about board games? Are you a board game?
I love board games.
Okay.
I love board games. I never get enough. I don't have enough like friends who want to do board games. And I love board
Hey.
games.
Well, so I see the answer here is that if someone's listened to this podcast
Yes.
and they're like, I need to ask Tay on a date, board games,
Board game.
line dancing, a walk if you want to do a walk if the
Yeah.
weather's nice. Okay, so whoever's listening has plenty of options.
You have
Or,
so many options, truly.
yeah, that's a great, I mean, it all ties back to just openness and,
Intentionality.
yeah. Okay. Okay, I think this is a great place to wrap things up because I'm hoping that whoever's listening, they either have themselves in mind, they have a friend in mind, and then so in the show notes we'll have information on how you can contact the team at Eligible In and set yourself up on a nice board game / walking / line dancing / whatever you want to do. Just be intentional about it. Date
Yeah.
with Tay. So I just want to say thank you, Tay, so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who is listening. Yeah, if you have not liked, subscribed, shared, all this stuff,
Do all the
be sure
things.
to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Eligible In, a production of Eligible In Media. Our theme song is by Monster Rally. If you see someone you like on our show, or if you would like to nominate yourself or someone you love to be interviewed by us, please visit us at EligibleIn.com for more information, including a link to subscribe to our newsletter, where you can stay up to date on our newest episodes, as well as exclusive features of our eligible people. Lovely.